Welcome back. So now we're going to move on to the next agenda on our focus day one. This agenda is going to be on meeting pals. Let me write it here. Meeting pals. Okay. So entrepreneurial leaders typically hate meetings because most meetings are just awful. Nothing is worse than these endless reporting sessions where everyone yammer on forever about things that aren't really important to the entire team. At best, lots of stuff gets discussed, but very little is accomplished. But imagine for a moment a regular and highly productive meeting pulse, one that keeps you efficient, connected to all the important things happening in the business, makes you more effective as an individual, as leaders, and as a team, and is focused on solving problems rather than just talking about them. So would you dread that meeting? For as long as you're working with me, I'll be responsible for helping you with your 90-day world by running your annual planning sessions and your quarterlies. Your job over the next few weeks is to master the weekly level 10 meeting beginning next week, because you can't stay properly connected to the business and to one another without meeting more regularly than every 3 months. That's where weekly level 10 meetings come in. Right? By investing 90 minutes each week and following a very specific agenda, you will eliminate the need for a bunch of wasteful one-on-one communication. It prevents bottlenecks and train wrecks that happens when the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. 5 keys to a productive, healthy meeting pulse. Holding weekly meetings on the same day at the same time, starting on time, ending on time, and using the same agenda each week. So here's the level 10 agenda. So first, we will start off with a segue. That will be 5 minutes, right? This is where we talk about good news or stuff that just happened throughout the week. Okay, this will be 5 minutes. Then we have the scorecards, 5 minutes. We will review our rocks and we'll talk about customer or employee headlines. Now I'll run through all this in a bit, yeah? Then we go through to-do list. This will be also 5 minutes. And then we're going to run through IDS, issue list. This will be 60 minutes. And next up, we will conclude. Recap, to-dos, any cascading messages, and we do a rating to wrap it up. 5 minutes. This is rating 1 to 10 on the meeting. So you find that a few minutes focused on the human element each week will help increase team health. That should take no more than 5 minutes. The next 3 items on the agenda are reporting only. No discussions, no excuses, no solving. To make sure you're hitting numbers each week, you first quickly report on your scorecard, which we will create next. Here, you simply describe each measurable as either on track or off track. There's no need to discuss those items at this point in the meeting. We just drop any off-track numbers down to the issue list. You then take the same approach with rocks, reviewing both companies and individual rocks and letting each leader say his or her rocks are either on track or off track. Anything that's off track simply drops down to the issue list. The next item on the agenda is customer and employee headlines. This helps you keep tabs each week on whether you have customers and employees that are happy or unhappy. Again, we're looking at headlines, no commentary, right? If there's any bad reports, just drop them down to the issue list and we'll solve it together. This approach helps us avoid getting bogged down before the meeting gets started, stuck in one of those exhausting reporting sessions where you're spending an hour just sharing news, making excuses, and discussing the same things over and over again. The next agenda item is the to-do list. A to-do is a 7-day action item that one of you agrees to get done before next week's meeting. To-dos will be baked right into your level 10 meeting agenda, a dynamic document with everything you need right at your fingertips. When you get to the to-do list each week, you go down to the list asking each person with a to-do whether it was to done. This discipline helps you get to the point at which 90% of the to-dos are dropping off every week. It creates accountability and helps everyone get more done. From there, we go to the real magic of what makes meetings great, which is solving issues, right? Setting them up, knocking them down, and really making them go away forever. When you master the weekly level 10 meeting, you spend 2/3 of your meeting each week solving problems with IDS. You recall from our 90 meeting minute that most leadership teams spend all of their time discussing the heck out of their issues. Rarely do they ever identify or solve anything. So in a fit of frustration, I created IDS to help teams quit spinning their wheels, talking about lots of stuff and never really getting anything done. As for the IDS section, begin each week by prioritizing the 3 most important issues on the list and then jumping right into IDS for the first one. Next, remind the team how to identify the root cause of the issue, discuss it briefly with everyone saying what needs to be said only once, because remember, more than once is politicking, and solve the issue by agreeing on a plan to make it go away forever. That's the whole point of ideas, right? You got to make sure the issue gets solved. Once you solve the first issue, you just add any to-dos to the to-do list, and then you go to issue number 2. If you solve all 3 issues, just prioritize the next 3 most important issues and repeat until you run out of time. Some weeks you'll solve 10 issues, some weeks you'll solve 1. As long as you're tackling the most important issues, you'll always be using your time wisely. This discipline will make you all much better at short-term predicting. Wherever you are with 5 minutes left in a meeting, you conclude by doing 3 simple things. You first recap your to-dos. Next is cascading messages. Did something happen in the meeting that needs to be shared with others? That's cascading messages. If so, you must all agree on who's going to tell them, right? That's cascading messages, right? What are you going to tell them and how are you going to tell them? Finally, you end by rating the meeting 1 to 10, with 10 being the best and 1 being the worst, right? Rating your meetings each week will help you self-correct. It forces you to work together to get better at meetings, to become more open and more productive as a team, and obviously, as a company, right? So one final thought, these level 10 meetings are vital. Attending them must become a priority for all of you. There are only 2 good reasons to miss a level 10 meeting: vacation and death. Your death, right? Okay, so that's all for level 10 meeting. We are currently running that already. So this is just a sharing from the perspective of an implementer in terms of how we will implement it in the company. Okay, so hopefully everyone is aligned on this page, and then we will move on to the next section, which is the scorecard. Okay, and I'm sure you guys know how a scorecard looks already, so I'm not gonna draw out the whole thing over here, but it's basically in our little Excel sheet, right? And we have like we have our names here, right? We have our name, then we have our scorecard measurable, okay, and then we have our goal, right? And then here we will have our every week: week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, and everyone will have their own kind of plans. Okay, so we have this scorecard. Again, you can refer to it in our level 10 Google Sheet, right? And I'm going to start now, right? To talk about scorecards in this section. A great scorecard contains a handful of weekly activities-based numbers, offers 13 weeks of history at a glance, and helps leaders maintain an absolute pulse on the business, okay? It quickly solves real insight that helps leaders become better predictors and make better decisions. So imagine yourself on an island. This is how you should think about scorecards, right? Imagine yourself on an island. A server brings you a frosty beverage and a sheet of paper that contains 5 to 15 numbers. Remember, 5 to 15 numbers for the company, right? Cell reception on the island is terrible, and you have no internet access, which means you cannot communicate with one another, right? What are all the numbers you need to know to get a definitive sense of what's working and what's not working in the business? You can't call in and you can't talk to other people to get a real story. So what are the numbers you want to see on those sheet of paper, right? That's something that we have to discuss, and make sure that we're looking for leading indicators that can be measured on a weekly basis. Should we be thinking of metrics from our own departments? Yes, but also think about what you need to know about marketing, operations, and finance to get an absolute pulse on the whole business, right? So there will be different measurables. So list down as many as you can. Just keep going down and down. So we will need to have one for sales team. We have one, right? Marketing team. We have one. Ops team will have one as well. So then we'll have one also for the company where we combine everything, right? Operations team, then we have finance team. Leading indicators are the best, but if you and the rest of the team believe that weekly revenues is one of the numbers that gives you an absolute pulse of the business, it belongs on your scorecard. That said, let me illustrate what we mean by leading versus trailing indicators, right? So we're going to start with this. So we're going to talk about this here, right? What do we want? We start with what do we want? We want, for example, 1 new client per month, okay? So this is what we want. Okay, and to get 1 new client per month, we're probably gonna need, proposal presented. Okay, we will need maybe 2 per month. Okay, and to get proposal presented, we have to first obviously create proposal, right? So this will be also 2 per month, and so on and so forth, right? And you're gonna go on to next one will be something like, for example, you have to set up meetings, right? So to get proposals sent, 2 per month, you will also need to have meetings set up, right? So for example, you need to have maybe 2 per week for meetings. And to get 2 meetings, you have to first do reach outs, right? And to reach out, you will maybe need to do 5 reach outs per week. And to get 5 reach outs, you must first obviously have to add them to your list. Add prospect to CRM. Right here, maybe you'll need, let's say, 10 per week. So out of 10, you reach out to 5. Right. So this is an illustration of a typical sales process. We identify a number of new clients as a trailing indicator, right? So this is what we want, and this is what we call the trailing indicator or the trailing KPI, right? And everything else before it, it's the leading KPI, because we're gonna need those things before we can achieve this 1 new client per month, right? So yeah, in that case, I want to measure leads, initial meetings, and proposals. Okay, so in terms of a sales team, these are gonna be our ideal number of scorecards, right? Because obviously, if something is wrong with, let's say, reach out, like this week we have no reach outs, then obviously everything behind it will be affected. So in my scorecards, I'm gonna need to understand all the numbers over here to understand, what went wrong and how can we solve it. Yeah, so setting up scorecards is something that we have to learn to spend more time together over the coming months to learn, right? I think we don't have the perfect formula yet, as we're still learning how to implement EOS. So I would say let's be patient, stick with it, and learn together as we evolve. I'm doing this video because I just want everyone to be aligned in terms of the mindset, in terms of what makes a good rock, what makes a good scorecard, etc., right? So we go on this process, and hopefully as I read off this thing to you as an implementer, you get to understand what is going on through my mind whenever I think about things like level 10, things like rocks, and so on and so forth. All right. So that's it for today. So take some time to absorb whatever I've just shared, and record 2 to 3 things that you want to share with your team, right? And some notes that you have, just to make sure I understand what's going on. And as usual, if you have any questions, just ask me. All right. So that's all for today. Thank you. Bye bye.